Many, many people throughout the world want to live the American dream. The one country in the world that provides that opportunity is here in the United States of America.
Arizona is once again ground zero in the battle over immigration.
70% of the voters in this country are in favor of immigration reform. What type of immigration reform is where the debate lies.
The direction we're going now is not good for Arizona or the country.
Under the current laws, the situation that we're in now will continue, in large part because the federal government has failed.
Indeed, our failure to act responsibly at the federal level will only open the door to irresponsibility by others. And that includes, for example, the recent efforts in Arizona.
Arizona passed an aggressive law in 2010 designed to make life so difficult for illegal immigrants that they would choose to leave.
The country's toughest immigration law went on the books in Arizona, and the debate hasn't died down one bit.
Where you have children being left alone while their fathers and mothers are being escorted out by Sheriff Arpaio and company. And he's singularly responsible for the breakup of more Mexican households than anybody else.
If you followed the immigration debate here in Arizona or across the country, you've heard the name Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
So when you get 8,000 people in our jails that are there for state crimes, not for being here illegally, but they are here illegally, and they are turned over to the Homeland Security, over 3,000 have come back to the same jails that I run. Think of that.
So you have the imprint of becoming felons for crossing the border to work to go back in order to feed their families. That kind of situation has got to change.
13 Phoenix police officers murdered and maimed by illegal aliens. Is that just collateral damage?
We have thousands of miles of border. Arizona has 370 miles of border with Mexico. And this territory, for all practical purposes, has been ceded to the transnational criminals. And that's very wrong. This is our country, not theirs.
One language, one culture, one America. And if you're professed to be anything else, you're not an American.
I wish that more people in our country would see migrants as humans and not as a nationality.
We truly, truly need a strong, strong message to Congress and to the president that we need to reform our immigration laws.
I worry. I worry about the relationship with Mexico. I worry about the future of our children. I worry what other countries think of the state of Arizona.
First aid kit, gloves, antibacterial sanitizer.
My name is Mike Zielinski. I've been volunteering with No More Deaths for just about a year now. I grew up in California, the Central Valley, which is a big agricultural area. And so I saw the situation from a different point of view. It was definitely further away. And so when I moved to Arizona, that's when I kind of came across the immigration problems. It seemed like something needs to be done to end the injustice. Our role would be providing water in the desert for people crossing the desert. A lot of times the livelihood of people has been shifted out from under them, and they're left with no way to survive. And so they're often forced to crossing into other countries.
2 black bottles here, and there's one seal, so I guess the bottle got drunk. Oh, okay. I don't see the bottle anymore.
I've seen that before, where they kind of drop off the water that they've been carrying and pick up like one of ours. So you know, who knows where that water
So maybe
came from.
they filled it.
Yeah, like at a cattle crossing, or, you know, some like, really bad water.
The immigration system, the conditions that we are in, is a result of not being able to keep up with the societal changes in place.
We tend to view this crisis, this humanitarian crisis, as designed. It's a policy issue. It's purely the result of U.S. economic policy, and it can be avoided. And that's what we're trying to change. We're trying to change the culture as well as the laws, and so to avoid this kind of humanitarian crisis.
I'm Russell Pierce, the author and driving force behind SB 1070. As you know, illegal alien problem is a critical issue, not just in Arizona, but across this nation, and the effects of it ripple throughout society. We must have the courage, the fortitude to enforce with compassion, without apology, those laws to protect the integrity of our borders and the rights of our citizens from those who break our laws.
After 1070, over 100 to 150,000 illegal aliens fled the state. We know that enforcement works. We've proven it here in Arizona, and that was just a mere threat of enforcement.
SB 1070 legalizes racial profiling. SB 1070 makes it to where every police agency asks for documents of people they suspect to be undocumented. And the people they suspect to look undocumented are always going to look like myself.
Our legislator created negative legislation, and when I went to Mexico, I was a council member. And the thing is, no, it's me from Arizona, the racist. And I don't think people look at the overall picture when they're trying to pass legislation. It affects Arizona. It affects my city.
Illegal is a crime, not a race. And everybody wants to make it a race issue. Illegal is illegal. Arizona did not make illegal illegal. It was already illegal.
Anytime there's hate speech, there's policy introduced, and obviously when there's policy that's passed, we take it personal.
We've heard from Arpaio, Brewer, and Pierce. And in Arizona, we know what that turns into. It turns into policy that puts our people in cages. It turns into policy that separates our families. And once again, this hatred is turning into policy here in Arizona. And that's what we're here to do, to stop the hate and not allow this to happen to our community. We took this space today and sent a message to Ducey. We're going to go back outside and make sure that the legislators hear us. And they hear loud and clear that we're here to stop the hate.
Arizona's become the epicenter of anti-immigrant legislation and personalities in the entire country.
Tens of thousands of people on both sides of the debate over illegal immigration are taking to the streets in Arizona, where a tough new law is scheduled to go into effect.
When we take on civil disobedience, it's because people aren't listening and because we want to note that there's a crisis in our community. When we take a stance to commit civil disobedience, to get arrested, to risk our livelihood, it's for that reason, because it's that important to us.
I think it's everyone's responsibility to help protect their country. My neighborhood was being directly impacted by what I would call an invasion of transnational criminals.
Lookouts for Mexican drug cartels living in the mountains just south of Phoenix.
2010, our county sheriff essentially threw up his hands and said that we no longer control large portions of this county.
We are outgunned, we are outmanned, and we don't have the resources here locally for us to fight this. Drug cartels control this area.
They have unlimited resources, and they are constantly looking to push product, and whether that's human smuggling or narcotic smuggling, they're constantly looking to push that through, and they're going to do it whether we have a strong show of force on the border or whether it's more limited.
The number one corridor for human trafficking and drug trafficking comes through Pinal County. 50% of illegal entries into the United States come through Arizona borders. 50%. And that's including the drug cartels.
The reason why the cartels are successful is because Americans have an insatiable appetite for drugs. So let's start with the fact that Americans are fueling the cartels' business in this country.
It's a drug problem, too, not just illegal immigration. But they don't talk about drugs. It's always illegal immigration.
The drug itself isn't as harmful as the some of the effects of it when we have a criminal enterprise controlling the drug trade. We have no business letting these people operate inside our borders the way they do, particularly this far inland. We have cartel activity well over 75 miles into the United States. There are spotters in these hills. We've been made as soon as we pull into the area. So the real strategy here is just to hang around and, cause a log jam, south of us, because we know if we're here, the loads won't move any further forward as long as we're in the area. I consider the entire smuggling industry an industry of exploitation. These illegal businesses are preying upon people here. I kind of have a problem with that in itself.
Smuggling has always been present along the border. What you have is, in fact, an enormous American market in the need of everything from heroin through cocaine, through marijuana. And so the market is here. And so the cartels really are a subset of the American market. It wouldn't exist otherwise.
Well, we do see a lot of different techniques when it comes to narcotic smuggling. They've tried to attempt to cut the border. They've tried to trebuchet drugs over the border to kind of launch them. They've tried to tunnel under the border. So they've tried a lot of different deception and technique strategies. Those guys are what we refer to as staging. And what they're trying to do is wait for an opportunity where they think it's going to be most effective to try and push traffic and trying to get across the border with the limited detection capabilities. There's a group of 5. There's another one that's a little bit further. You can't see him. He's wearing a black hoodie. He's on a cell phone right now. Criminal organizations attempt to control a particular area of the international boundary. And whether it's human smuggling or narcotic smuggling, a lot of times the individuals that are pushing both are all tied into the same organization.
The drug cartels, the terrorists that come across the border, I mean, wow, it's amazing if people just knew what was happening on that border. And Mexico has done nothing to curtail that, nothing. They are not a good neighbor.
La vida de México, pues, está cabrón, ¿no? La pobreza y eso, y estaba duro allá, ¿no? Pues, me vengo acá a ganarme la vida más que nada, y crucé la frontera y no pude cruzar, ¿no? Pues, a lo mejor si me da oportunidad, Diosito, volvería a cruzar de nuevo, pero si no es mi destino donde debería estar, pues me voy para regresos, ¿no? Mira, yo salí a mi casa salí a los 14 años y ya llevo un rato acá y ya luego me vine de mi casa porque no había trabajo, no había trabajo, no había nada y mi familia necesitaba algo con quien mantenerlo, ¿no? Mi familia y mi mamá ya murió, ¿no? Ya solo me quedaba yo y mi hermana, ¿no? Y como dice una música, somos mojados, pero solo queremos trabajar y hacer, las cosas. No queremos hacer malo ni nada.
Whether it is an escape from a criminal organization, whether it's escape from, kind of a checkered past, whether it's an escape from poverty, all of them are trying to escape some type of element that kind of drives their desire to cross into the United States.
You can never solve the illegal immigration or the drug traffic 100%. You can put up walls up to the moon. They're still going to come in, one way or the other.
few people can't stop this. It doesn't really make any difference where, but somewhere someone's trying to come through. And if I make it harder for just one group, you know, that word gets back across the border very quickly. There are people doing bad things in my neighborhood, and it all comes from here, you know, out here in this valley. This is the pipeline to my neighborhood. This is more than going to the ballot box. This is more than writing a blog. This is more than writing a letter to the editor. This is actually physically attempting to do something, even though it might be futile, even though it might not have any impact at all. It's still something that, you know, I kind of feel like I want to do. You know, as compassionate and as generous as Americans are, we really can't afford to be the world's refugee camp.
The Pima County Office of the Medical Examiner is on the front lines of the migrant humanitarian crisis that's occurring right now along the U.S. and Mexico border.
All the undocumented border crosser type deaths that occur or the Arizona border with Mexico come to this office for us to examine. So we've had the highest number of these types of deaths of any single jurisdiction in the U.S. since about the year 2000. In the 1990s, we would find maybe 10 to 15 remains a year in the desert of people that we would now call undocumented border crossers. And then from 2000 through the 2000s, it was, you know, averaging much higher. We have more skeletal remains now in the past 5 or 6 years than we had in the early 2000s. That may indicate that, well, potentially fewer remains are being recovered, and they may be in more remote locations so that it's taken longer for those remains to be found.
Somebody dies in a very remote area of the Sonoran Desert, they may not be found for a while. And as time passes, the chances of finding somebody their complete remains decreases. When we get the remains, we try to create a biological profile that will help in the identification of this individual. So what I can tell you about this individual is that he is likely a teenager. And we can see that, that's what the bones are telling us right now because of some of his long bones. So these are all pointing to the fact that this individual is probably in the 14 to 18-year-old range. So pretty young to be crossing and dying out in the desert. So most likely, hopefully, somebody is worried about this kid and somebody is looking for him, and hopefully we can provide that information. We're not just identifying people for the purposes of the state or for the purposes of bringing a name to that person for that person, but for the families who really do care about people who are dying out in the desert.
People who want to come over the country illegally, they find someone that will take them. The easiest route that they believe that this person knows, then they charge them money, and then they say that they'll take them over, and then sometimes they'll start walking them through, and then they'll just leave them, or they'll return back, or to evade arrest, or just leave them out in the desert. And sometimes it ends in death. A lot of times it ends in death.
What we're seeing now is just unique. That all of these remains coming in, all of these people dying is unique and doesn't have any end in sight. And that's hard to think that people are dying and it's not getting very much attention.
The structure of the Mexican economy has increased the number of billionaires and decreased the opportunity structure for most Mexicans. All of these conditions lead to the pattern of migration into the north. Simply said, you can't make a living and survive with your family in many parts of Mexico.
Está más triste la situación que allá en los Estados Unidos, ¿verdad? Por eso la gente busca otro propósito, ¿verdad? Pues de estar bien, ¿verdad? En el otro lado, ¿verdad? Muchos se van para allá, en vez de los echan y se vuelven a ir, ¿verdad? ¿Por qué? Porque no hay porvenir aquí en México, no hay.
Es libertad y a la vez no, porque nos sentimos oprimidos por muchas cosas, de que el crimen, los salarios muy bajos, no hay mucha oportunidad y pues por eso buscamos el norte.
Bendice a nuestra familia y cada paso que demos, que en todos los hogares haya pan, haya alimento. Dame tu amor y tu gracia, que esto me basta. En el nombre del Padre, del Hijo y del Espíritu Santo. Amén.
The majority of people we serve are deportees, about 87%. So most of them are originally from Mexico. And so a number have walked through the desert for many days, motivated by economic need, fleeing violence. There's a lot weighing on people when they come to us. And for, I'd say, a number of people, it's the most traumatic experience of their lives. I think for people who see it strictly as a problem, they're starting from a different place. We start with the human person, and we don't keep statistics in terms of numbers. We keep statistics in terms of persons.
We've got to have a regional approach to labor and economy that, in fact, provides the maximum benefits to both sides of the border, whether they're Mexicans or not.
We need to stop yelling at each other and not continue with this climate of hate and not continue with this climate of division.
The biggest thing that needs to change is people's understanding that the immigrants crossing the border are just human beings also.
Altruism sometimes gets the better of us. We sometimes hurt ourselves in that attempt to be compassionate. I think we've already gone past that breaking point in this country right now.
You're never going to turn this around. If you don't fix it now, there's a pivotal point where it won't be fixable.
I worry. I worry about the relationship with Mexico. I worry about the future of our children. I worry what other countries think of the state of Arizona.